members.
We are back on Morning Line. Our guest is Jim Schulman. He is the vice mayor here in the city of Nashville. Taking a lot of good calls for you this morning. I appreciate it. This is a chance for you, a citizen, whether you live in Nashville or not, to call in and ask the vice mayor, number 2 man in the city, about what's happening here in Nashville, you know, the jewel of Tennessee, one of them. Let's go next to, I think Linda waited through the break. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning.
Hi.
How are y'all doing? Hope you're fine.
Thanks.
The guy, I believe his name was Rick, concerned about voting, and he couldn't maybe see or read. I know I do absentee voting, and on the form there is a place for a person to sign that they have seen them vote or helped them do the voting on the absentee ballot. So that would help him out. And also, something I know I have contacted Vice Mayor Schulman about the drag racing in South Nashville area. It is really bad. I mean, 12, 15 at night wakes you up and you just hear it all over the place. So we're all just really concerned about the safety of everybody with the drag racing, which probably was part of what happened this weekend with the painting of the Black Lives Matter thing. So
Running over.
Just those couple of things. We'll talk to you later. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you, ma'am. And she brings up a good topic. Yeah, we've seen videos that get sent to us. We've done stories on this drag racing on the streets. What do you think, Jim?
So on that call with the folks from Atlanta and San Jose and Louisville, Atlanta, this is a big problem. They, excuse me, the kids have the ability to text each other or use an app and locate where they're going to do this, and then they all meet, and there's like 500 to 1,000 people. This is happening in Atlanta. I don't know how many people we have in Southeast, but I know it's happening there, and they have these. You know, they spin donuts and drag racing and all kinds of other stuff. They shoot off fireworks and maybe guns, and it's not a good situation. We've passed it along to the mayor's office. They're aware of it. I think the police is aware of it. But it was interesting talking to Atlanta. That was, you know, with all the other things going on, somebody said, what's the biggest issue right now going on in Atlanta? And they said, it's this street racing stuff. And then the vice mayor of Louisville said, it's happening here. And I'm going like, well, you all keep it there. We don't want it here,
right.
But we've got a little bit of it. We need to be very careful. So Linda's right on point. But we're aware of it and need to be careful.
Let's take a quick call from David before we wrap things up. David, good morning. Hi, David.
Good morning.
Morning.
Had a couple of comments and questions. First, I wanted to ask Jim, what's the mayor's plan for people when they start losing their homes? They can't afford this 34% increase. And you have to understand the reappraisal hits the lower income people a lot worse because their houses prices have gone up a lot more than what people live in Bellmead. So even though it's revenue neutral for the city, it's not revenue neutral for the individuals. And I want to encourage the mayor to start looking at the budgets that were offered by other council members that were lower than 33 and 34%. That'd be a starting point. And, you know, just start cutting administrative stuff like those 2 diversity officers that have never been filled. They're going to be making over $100,000 a year. Cut administrative stuff, even with the schools. Cut people that aren't inside the classrooms. You've got to make some tough decisions, Jim. Now, I'll stand by and hear what you got to say.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
And David, I'm listening. You know, all these calls today have been really, really good. So
just a couple minutes, Jim.
Yeah, we'll tell you the 34% property tax increase again. Primarily 32% of it was really designed to cover this year, and I know that scares people, but it was designed to cover to make sure that we just didn't have a complete gutting of city services. So again, remember, all taxes basically are for a year, and then we can take another look at it next year. People go, well, you just keep it where it was. Obviously, we can do that, or we can cut it back. The hope is that we get through this thing and we can bring it back down to some other level. David's right on the reappraisal stuff. This city is going through like other cities when it went through this boom phase. You know, a lot of the areas whose property values just jumped were in places. They weren't in Belmead. They were in East Nashville and North Nashville. All those property values went up. And that was why there was always those concerns about raising property taxes before, was because they were going to get hit. After the reappraisal, a lot of people had their property taxes go up anyway because the values of their properties had gone so up high. That's the nature of this
So
beast.
is there a plan just about, he fears losing his home, and you know, I just don't know that it should come to that. You know, if someone can't afford it, I mean, that's a fear for some people. Or what would you tell them?
And I agree. I think part of this is something, you know, how does the city deal with a city on the you know, that's growing and that is booming, or at least was before the pandemic, and we see where it goes after it. That has been why there's been so much talk about affordable housing and all this other stuff. Now, what's going to happen after this, I don't know. You know, I think the thought was there was so much building going on, and there still is. Is it going to be filled up after, or property value is going to come back down because all of a sudden people aren't going to be spending so much money on these things?
Right.
I don't know. David, very, very good points. I think we keep working through this together.
Okay, and I know there is some relief for certain citizens, especially older, when it comes to things like property taxes.
That's right.
It'll be a story. We'll be there with cameras if anyone tries to get evicted because they can't pay their property taxes. I just don't see that happening right off the bat, but no one wants to be in debt either, so I understand where you're coming from, David. Jim, thanks for coming on.
Sure.
We'll see you again in a week.
Yeah, David, call me if you want to talk about it more. Interesting. Very
Appreciate
good.
it, my friend. We'll be back in touch. Take a break. Programming note right after this.